You're listening to 710 KURV. I'm Davis Rankin along with Kennedy LaFave. We welcome James Moore, who is both a newsman of old, or once was a newsman, until he wised up and got into the writing business. He's an author. He's also a business communication consultant and a watcher of Texas politics. And he has decided, at least according to your piece in HuffPost, Jim, that Rick Perry, the governor, will be convicted. So defend this rash and brash prediction.
Well,
By the way, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. It's good to be talking with you. And I used to listen to KURV when I lived in the Valley back in the 70s, and I still listen to it when I'm down there now. So it's good to be a part of your program. But I agree. It's a rash statement, but I have looked at this closely, and the governor's. The governor deserves the same equanimity and the fairness from the legal process as anyone does. And right now, his legal team has just concluded in about 10 minutes ago a news conference, and their entire legal defense appears built around swaying public opinion that the governor had a right to veto the budget. And there's no question about that. No one is suggesting for a moment that he didn't have the right to veto. The issue here and the prosecution is going to be built around what happened after that veto and how he used the power of the veto. The witnesses, and I know two of the three that the case is built around who testified before the grand jury. There were 40 people who were interviewed, but two of the three key players involved in Texas Capitol politics who testified. They suggest, and I'm told pointedly that they said this before the grand jury, that the governor first threatened to veto and to if Ms. Limburg did not resign from public office, and governors can threaten veto to affect legislation, but they cannot threaten to veto in an attempt to force someone who is elected to public office out of office. And further, that may be considered blackmail in legal terms, and further, he may have gone so far as to offer bribery. And we are told, some of us who have been watching this closely, that the governor's sent a message to an emissary, a high-profile Democrat, that if Ms. Limburg would step down, that he would restore the budget that he had already vetoed and might even help her find another job. If that's the case, then the governor probably has some serious legal problems. I suggest also the man prosecuting is not anybody to be trifled with.
I assume my reaction to this, which I assume is more layman because you're much more involved in this, is that just sounds like politics to me. If you do A, I'm going to do B. And this is what I want, and the price of this is she's got to go because she blew 300% over the limit, alcohol, drunk, and not fit morally to hold that office.
Yeah, but Davis, let's consider this. There were two other DAs during his tenure who were arrested and convicted of DUI, and he spoke not a word about their indiscretion. Further, there was a state rep who is convicted of DUI and was promoted to a legal counsel, making $162,000 a year for the State Department of Health and Human Services. So I don't think that that's the issue at this point.
We talk about legal counsel and stuff. I guess I can get away with this more because I'm young and dumb. But how am I supposed to look at this? Because I look at politicians.
One day soon you'll be old and dumb, so you have something to look forward to.
I don't have long, I guess. When I look at this, I think about all politicians. They got this legal team behind them. They tell them green light, red light, you can do X or you can't do it. I'm going to assume for a second that the governor, the 10th largest economy, if you put it in perspective, should have a monster legal team. Who messed up here, or how did they not know that it could get some backlash?
How'd they keep him from being indicted? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, shouldn't they know? Hey, if you do this, there's a possibility this is going to come back at you way.
He does. He presently has a monster legal team. He's just got the lawyer who was involved in the George W. Bush recount in 2000, and a couple of other big players. But I think that this might be a classic case of hubris, wherein you're talking about a governor who's been in longer than any other. He now has appointed every single head of state agency and board appointee in the state of Texas. That's never happened in our state's history. So he basically runs the government in a way that no one ever has, and it's entirely possible that he thought, look, I'm king of the roost, and these things that I want done, they get done, and I'm going to tell her that if she doesn't leave, I'm taking away her budget. And then after he took away the budget, he tempted her with a new job and restoring the budget. And again, if that's the case, as the testimony might indicate, then the governor has a legal problem that is probably built statutorily around something like bribery and blackmail. And it has, again, this case is not about the veto. He has the right to veto. He has the right to do what he did. It's how he did it and what he did subsequent to that veto that has probably put him in some legal jeopardy.
Let me pose a question that occurred to me when we were talking with Ross Ramsey of the Texas Tribune, and I'm going to do violence to the example, but it's this way. It's not that he or attempted to dethrone or defund the DA's office. It was he attempted to defund a watchdog group which was in charge of watching him and others in state government. And it occurred to me, if that's true, then wouldn't it also be true, or couldn't you make the argument that if she submits a budget request to the state legislature to fund the public integrity unit, how do they say, no, we're not going to do it, if her or anybody else? How do the legislators say, no, we're not going to fund your request, we're going to fund this lower request, and then she hollers, they're trying to control me. They won't give me what I need to get my job done.
Those are standard debates. Budgetary arguments are standard debates, Davis, as you know, in the legislature year after year. She'll come in and ask for X amount, and they'll settle for another amount. And it's up to the DA how she might react to that. But the larger question is the premise of what you ask, and that is the Public Integrity Unit is in charge of monitoring the behavior of everyone in elected public office around the state of Texas. Now, the motive that everybody is suggesting that Mr. Perry had for vetoing her at this point had to do with an ongoing investigation of the Cancer Prevention and Research Institute of Texas. One of the people on that board has already been indicted for awarding an $11 million grant to a company that involved one of Mr. Perry's biggest contributors, and it did not undergo any review. And in fact, we lost 2 Nobel laureate scientists, and we lost 18 other scientists on the peer review of that group, that organization, CPRIT, who resigned, claiming that millions of dollars in awards were being given out as political favors and not because the ideas for their research and their companies were good. And that office, the PIU, was investigating that. So it raises suspicions as to whether Mr. Perry would have tried to get rid of her for that reason, and then he had the power to replace her, to appoint her replacement, which would have likely have been a Republican, and that could have brought an end to any further investigation. So that's the motive that many people analyzing this are imputing, but nobody really knows. All we know is that the governor's been indicted, and there's a very serious prosecutor in San Antonio who does not bring these types of cases unless he thinks that he has a very strong case.
You'll find Jim Moore at MooreThink. His Twitter handle is @Moore, MOORE, MooreThink. He is a business consultant. He's actually doing some consulting work for economic development corporations here in the Rio Grande Valley. He is a previous author and reporter, and he's got a bounce. Thank you very much, Jim. We'll talk with you later.
My pleasure, Davis. Kennedy.
Thank you.
You're listening to 710 KURV. This is The Drive Home.